we are up and we are live. So while you guys get everything set up here, I'm going to let people know as they're joining that basically what we do on now a once or twice a week basis is while we are recording while we're videotaping the recording of our podcast, this podcast can get polished up a little bit and it's going to be live this episode will be available Thursday, the 7th of May. So, what we're allowing people to do is kind of watch and chime in. They can ask questions on our YouTube live page, which is going to be, shared, so I imagine if you're watching this now, you found it. Otherwise, we'll then output this video, but really this just gives us an opportunity to just interact with people. And if you guys have any questions, like I said, you can ask that right in the live video feed there. Make sure you've subscribed to our YouTube page because these will happen once, twice a week, and you'll get a little notification letting you know. But other than that, if you guys are ready, if you guys are both on recording, I can go ahead and get started with the program. You guys ready to go?
Yeah, it says I'm recording and live.
Beautiful.
I'm recording and live. Ready to roll, man.
Cool. All right. So 5, 4, 3, 2. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. I'm Brandon.
I'm Kevin.
And this is the Garage.Chronicles. Let's start this over again. All right. I fucked up. Here we go.
Take two.
All right. So take two. I hope you guys are enjoying this. All right. So good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending when and where you're listening to us. I'm Brandon.
And I'm still Kevin.
And this is the Garage.Chronicles podcast. We have an awesome guest with us, as you can imagine, as you've gotten used to by now. Before we do, I want to take a really quick moment just to thank our sponsor, GripMat. GripMat's located here in Columbus, Ohio. I'm sure Javad, if you guys aren't using these yet at your shop, you should be. It's a non-slip tool mat. Basically, it allows you to put this on the car, on the engine bay, whatever it is. It's going to stop things from rolling away. GripMat was made famous on Shark Tank. They ended up winning SEMA Launchpad the following year. But it's a fantastic product. It comes in different sizes, different colors, but all kinds of different uses. They use it for IMSA. They use it for NHRA. There's all kinds of automotive uses, but it actually was originally designed for aerospace. But if you're not using it yet, make sure you are. If you go to the website gripmat.com, GRYPMAT.com, use the promo code Garage.Chronicles, all one word. You're going to get 10% off, and they'll give us a little pat on the shoulder saying thanks for helping us out. But GripMat was awesome. Tom's a great guy. So, again, as we said before, Amazon's kind of a clusterfuck right now. So get on gripmat.com, go direct to the source, use promo code Garage.Chronicles, and you'll get 10% off at checkout. So now that we've gotten that taken care of, let's welcome Javad from 034 Motorsports.
Hey, guys. Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me on the show, Brandon.
So, Javad, you guys are in the Northern California Bay Area, correct?
Yeah. The shop, 034 Motorsport headquarters, is in Fremont, California. We're actually right down the street from Tesla.
Oh, very cool. So I imagine you guys are doing very different work between
very different.
Not seeing many Teslas come to the shop. And I think, Brandon, that is a new record of introducing Tesla into a Garage Chronicles episode. I don't think we made it a minute.
No, I don't think we did either.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think we're less than a minute.
So Those that are listening at home will get it by now if they've listened to a couple episodes, but we can't get away from Tesla or Elon Musk talk. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, we can start to get on to cruise control. But I imagine
I apologize for that. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're new. You're new. I understand. I know you've listened to every episode, but that's how it goes. So Javad, by now I imagine you're getting pretty comfortable in front of the microphone and in front of the camera. I know that you guys have an awesome live series happening. Is it every Monday morning for the 034?
Yeah, we just started doing it last week, Mondays at 10 a.m. Pacific. And it's interesting. This coronavirus crisis has made us, has forced us to get in front of the camera even more than we ever have before. I think it's just one of those things. The more you do it, the more comfortable you get. It starts out, you just cringe seeing and hearing yourself talk. And now I'm at a point where I actually, it's kind of weird. I kind of like going back and watching the live and seeing what I said. And it's interesting because, when you talk, I don't know if you guys are the same, but I have this idea in my head. It's not made of words. These ideas are, they're these concepts that I want to communicate.
Kind of just like data, right?
Yeah. And I translate them into words. And so sometimes I listen to myself talking and I'm like, wow, I thought I said something totally different. And in my mind, it all made sense. But as the words came out, they didn't really do as good of a job of translating the concept as I thought. And so it's making me more cognizant of how I communicate. It's actually really cool.
I think it could be a great tool for couples, right? Like if you could go back and if you could rewind an argument, be like, wait, what did you say? Hold on, let me show you. This is what you said, and this is exactly how you fucking said it. But yeah, no, I agree 1,000%. And what's really, what I found to be really interesting is, actually, like I mentioned just a minute ago, not on camera or not on live, but this is our 10th episode. So this is Garage Chronicles episode number 10, which in the grand scheme seems super tiny, but definitely just in those 10 episodes, it's amazing. First of all, when we started this, there was no coronavirus. We didn't even know what that was. And we were like, we are definitely not doing video. Absolutely, we are not doing video because, for a lot of reasons, but primarily that we weren't comfortable with our not in-person communication skills enough that we could lose like okay, tell me what like the off.
You'd have like little signals. We'd have like, okay, you can keep going, or I'm going to jump in and kind of make things a little bit more streamlined. And then of course we kind of had to pivot just like everybody else did. And it's the same thing. You have that little self-analysis of going back and listening and watching and seeing what you do and how you communicate. It's a really interesting exercise for anyone that hasn't done it.
Yeah, and I found that I know both Kevin and I, as we started, so what we did before we even episode number 1, we had a handful, half a dozen or 10 episodes that we recorded that we knew were going to be junk. So we didn't want to be judged on them. We also didn't want to make you poor people listen to them. Only the wives of the family are like, hey, you're going to fucking listen to it. But we found so many different like word tracks and stuff that we said so much. We're like, oh my God, I can't believe I said it in this episode. I said this one thing 6 times. And one thing that I found that I do a ton of is I'll go, okay, yeah, listen. So 2 things. First of all, and I'll go into like this tangent and I'll never come back to number 2. And like, even like myself going back and rewatching it and listening, I was like, well, what the fuck was number 2? I don't remember what the hell I was going to say.
Did you just admit that you're Joe Biden, Brandon?
I am Joe Biden.
You are, because he does that every time he speaks, if I'm not mistaken. And on that note, we have a comment on the YouTube page, and it says, those speakers look gorgeous, Javad. So I'm going to echo that same comment because they look
can we talk
awesome.
about your speakers? Can we talk about your speakers, Javad?
Yeah, I love talking about speakers.
Oh, I love it. So I didn't realize until so when we are getting set up to do an episode with somebody, we try to do very little research, just enough that we can like have that if things get dry or if we hit a lull, we can be like, oh, like tell me about this. So we literally have speakers written down. I didn't realize that you have like your own, it's almost like a sub brand, right? Like that people want Javad speaker enclosures. Is that?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it that. When I started 034 Motorsport, I became, I'm my whole life I've sort of been the hyper hobbyist enthusiast from going back to when I was a kid, and so whenever I get into something, I really get into it, and I try to execute as a high level of it as I can, and so. I've really gotten into speaker building, and in this day and age, once you start, posting about the things you do, you get pretty well known. And so I started a Facebook group called the DIY Loudspeaker Project Pad about 2.5 years ago. And it was just a place for me to post about my speaker stuff, so I didn't bore all my Facebook friends and family and people like that. And it grew really quickly, and it's a place where I document all my projects. So I do these build threads, and I do, part 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to the finale where I summarize the whole project. And my goal with the page is just to, one, have other people to talk speaker building with, and 2, to help educate beginners. When I really got into this hobby about 5 years ago, it's just like a bunch of old guys. And so everyone was kind of talking about like, who's going to be the next generation of speaker builders. And so I kind of took it upon myself to really try to bring in younger people, new people, and make it fun and easy to learn. And so we have like 24,000 members now. And I've actually tried to slow down the growth because we almost have too many people now. But we're strictly focused on speaker building, not amps, not speaker cables, not, you know, vinyl or records and stuff like that. And all these speakers behind me are speakers that I've built. This is my audio listening room where it's kind of like if I had a man cave, this would be it. So yeah.
Very cool. They're
really cool.
absolutely gorgeous. They really are. And anyone on the live feed obviously just saw, you know, you can see them in the background behind Javad. They're absolutely stunning from what I can tell. So we won't plug your Facebook group if you're trying to keep it smaller. You know, we'll keep it private for you. But if you want to throw that out there, we'll leave that one up to you.
You know, anyone that would like to join, it's just called DIY Loudspeaker Project Pad. And, you know, you got to answer all the questions. You have to agree to our rules and stuff, and we'll let you in. But there's all these, like, you know, random trolls and web scammer people and just random, you know, who knows who they are, people.
What does like the average troll on a speaker group possibly have to say? Like, how does one troll a speaker group?
We all know how to troll car groups, so I mean, just to see a comparison.
Please.
There's plenty of trolls in the car groups. No, the people that troll don't last very long, so we kick them out right away. Mostly these people come in and they try to advertise. There's a lot of people trying to push, you know, various YouTube channels, you know, just to get clicks on stuff. You know, there just seems to be a huge effort of people trying to bring visibility to certain Facebook pages or certain YouTube channels and things like that. So like there's like bots and stuff like that.
Has the group been like very organically grown? Like, is this like a grassroots, like just like, how are people finding this group?
Oh, 100%. So I haven't spent a penny growing the group. You know, people, you know, actually DIY audio is a pretty popular topic on Facebook. So there's some reasonably sized groups. You know, there's none in the hundreds of thousands, but ours is the biggest currently, you know, with the most members. But no, people find out about it. It's a pretty tight community, and inevitably, you know, they hear about the page and they want to be on it. And I try to use my projects as not only an example, but, you know, some of my projects I try to do really exciting, cool concepts that really, you know, bring people and intrigue people to learn more about them.
So how often are you finishing a speaker enclosure?
I build about one speaker a month on average. You know, it's like something like what you see behind you. Some are bigger projects, take longer, but you know, I work pretty fast and I have a lot of energy. So, you know, I can get by with, you know, I don't need a full 8 or 9 hours of sleep. I can get by with like 7 long term. And so I'll stay out in the shop late at night. I have a really cool wood shop in my garage. That's complete. There's no Christmas decorations in there. There's no storage. It's just woodworking tools. So it's kind of my place to escape and, you know, recharge creatively.
So that's awesome. So was woodworking? I think you mentioned, like, where does that interest come from?
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I was lucky. My dad was still is a good woodworker. And so we always had the garage filled with, you know, tools. And I started, you know, using a table saw, you know, when I was just a kid. And so I started taking wood shop in school, basically starting in, you know, junior high. And I just was always in a wood shop class. And so my junior and senior year, I actually did an independent study course where you basically teach the entry level woodworking class and you get credit for doing that. So yeah, I just have always had a love for building and creating things, and love working with wood. Yeah, I've become a good metal worker over the years as well, but there's just something about working with wood. It doesn't ever get hot. It's not messy. It doesn't smoke. You know, and you don't have to use tremendous amounts of force to shape it. Unlike with metal, you know, whatever you do with metal, it just takes sometimes a lot more force and equipment. So for me, woodworking just it just feels, you know, organic, and I can use my hands, and I can, you know, translate something from my head into wood really, 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 you know, in a really great way.
Do you find that that, like really any hobby, I imagine it translates, but do you look at the back at the stuff that like you started out on and like kind of feel a little bit of a sense of embarrassment? You're like, oh my God, I can't believe I was so hyped on that when I did it, but
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I feel embarrassed per se, but I feel actually a sense of satisfaction that I can see the progress that I make with every project, with every effort. I push myself to do something new, to do something better than I've done it before. So yeah, I mean, even in this room, there's some of my older projects, and I would never let something like that out of my wood shop now. But I can see how that project was a step to me getting to this point. So I appreciate it. But yeah, definitely, my goal is to just keep getting better and improve, not do the same thing over and over.
So I know that you do, obviously you do your woodworking, you have a successful motorsport shop. And I know you also like to cook because we're friends. So for those that, obviously nobody would know, but Javad and I go back a handful of years. And so we've kept in touch and we're friends with each other on Facebook. So we can see what, the goings ons in our lives and the vats of food, just the absolute, like just volume of deliciousness that comes off of whether it be the grill or the smoker. I saw, what was it? A potato salad, no, a macaroni salad, I think the other day, right? It's to feed an army. But so is there anything else that you got brewing other than, those passions? Like what's the next thing, or do you just dive deeper into those?
Yeah, that's a good question. I love to cook because food is delicious, and it's
True
actually
story.
Yeah, it's actually pretty remarkable to cook food really well. Not even a lot of restaurants don't do it well. So when I cook something, I get great satisfaction, people loving it, people appreciating it, and kind of the ultimate for me is when someone says it's the best version of that they've ever
right,
tasted.
yeah.
That's
I was very surprised today going to your Instagram and taking a look. I'm very familiar with 034, but going to your personal Instagram and seeing all this delicious food when I'm expecting to see Audis and Volkswagens and other things like that. It was definitely not what I expected, but that's what I love about this is, we meet all these cool people, and you get to kind of see the other side of it. We all know you from 034, but there's a whole other thing with the speakers, with the woodworking, with all this delicious food.
And I do have to correct you, Kevin. So anyone that knows 034, and by the way, if you are actually we'll get into which segments you guys are in. I know obviously you're huge in the Audi world with the 5-cylinder stuff, Volkswagens, etc. But if you are anywhere near 034 and you've been to one of their open house type events, then you too would know of Javad's cooking, because he will feed the army. When you come, it is not hot dogs and burgers. It is Javad on a platter in the most poetic, delicious way possible.
Yeah, exactly. The cooking has actually become, one of the things that makes the event special. We have 2 open houses a year. I don't know what the future of those events are right now, but yeah. So for the winter event, I always cook. So currently it's 25 gallons of pot roast chili. I take about 75 pounds of beef and I braise it down like pot roast, and it becomes tender and, pull apart, delicious. And then I use the braising liquid as the base for the chili. And we feed about 500 people with that. It's a great chili.
Tell me more and talk dirty to me, but while you do that, I'm cracking open my beer because this is
now I'm sad that I missed any of those open houses when I lived up there.
Yeah,
definitely heard about them, but I don't think I know. I want to say I've been to the shop before, but I don't think it was during an open house.
Yeah, no. And then in the summer, I've done like hundreds of pounds of grilled tri-tip in the past. This past year we did tri-tip and lemon pepper chicken. I've done whole chickens. So yeah, we try to make it, fun and special, and the food and the cooking are a big part of the draw. We don't charge money for the food. It's free to everyone that comes. But I have gotten good at cooking. Yeah. I have gotten good at cooking for large numbers of people. And once you kind of figure out how to do it, it's actually pretty easy. And so I prep for 500 people by myself, and usually I get a helper or two at the event. But I can literally cook for hundreds of people, which is myself and maybe one or two other people helping me.
It's a hard skill. I mean, I'm the kind of guy who like always wants to have people over and have a barbecue, but I'm like, who wants to do the grilling? Like, I'll give you free beer. I don't want to be stuck behind the grill the whole time. I know it's something you got to just get comfortable with, like anything else. But it's definitely a hard thing to jump into. So I can only imagine, thinking the difference between 20 people and 500 people, it's got to be a big one.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's my comfort, my comfort zone. So if you invite me over to your house, I'm probably going to end up behind the grill cooking. And I feel like I can do a good job and I can make the most of it, and it makes me feel good for people to enjoy it. I don't know. At some point in life, you're naturally drawn to doing certain things, and you just don't. Maybe you don't fully understand it, but you just don't fight it, and you just you do what makes sense and what feels good.
Absolutely. We would all be so lucky to have a friend like you, Javad, that wants to jump behind the grill.
I love having people over. That's been one of the tough things about this coronavirus, pandemic is I love having my neighbors over, friends over. I'm always, having people over and cooking. So what I've been doing is, Brandon mentioned the macaroni salad. I just been cooking for large numbers of people in my neighborhood just to kind of satisfy that desire to cook for.
I'm sure they hate it.
They're complaining all day long. Ring the doorbell and drop off some macaroni salad and some other delicious treats and head on back to the house.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Actually, I have my kids. We call them Uber kids, and they make deliveries all over the neighborhood. For our friends and neighbors and stuff. So,
well, now I'm jealous of your neighbors too, because after looking at your Instagram, I'm hungry for dinner again, and it's almost 10 o'clock here. So
let's give Javad a shout on Instagram. Javad, what's your IG handle? We'll actually pull up your Instagram feed here.
Yeah, it's just my name, Javad Shadzi. So everything, I'm just Javad Shadzi on myself. I have nothing to hide.
There's not a lot of Javad Shadzi, so it makes it easier, I imagine. Right?
I am the only one.
We had no idea when we started. We probably should have done a little bit better searching. Here's Javad's Instagram feed on camera now.
Look at all these delicious, tasty treats on here.
But when we started the podcast, we didn't really realize that there was a band called Garage.Chronicles, or they are, I think, the Garage.Chronicles. So we try to stay away from the Garage.Chronicles. So let's transition a little bit over to cars, if we could. The car that I know 034 best for would be, Kevin, I'll have you pull that up on the screen in a minute here, there's a Mark IV. What is a GTI RS, I think is what you guys ended up calling it. It was a
GTI-RS.
Was it mid or rear engine?
Technically mid-engined. So
a mid-engine, and it had the B5 S4 2.7T in it, right? Was that the?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it was a
give us the specs.
It was a 2.7T, stroked out board and stroked to 3 liters, which is kind of the biggest you can make that motor. And there it is. That's a Sacramento Raceway. And then we used a 996 turbo rear suspension, complete. And it actually fit pretty well in the car. And then we took an Audi. We actually sourced an Audi Quattro transmission, but we sourced it from South Africa. And over there, they're actually front-wheel drive. So we used the front output shafts bolted to the motor to drive the rear wheels. And it all lined up really well. I had a 996 turbo at the time, so we just kind of hit me like that would be really badass. Porsche is kind of the ultimate
Volkswagen.
archetype of a Volkswagen. And then we could take the Porsche theme and use it throughout the project, which we did. And
with like the big reds on there and the turbo twists and all that good stuff. So it's got
so we just kind of kept that theme. The Porsche rear suspension is really good, and the wide rear tires and everything. It all came together really well. So it had our standalone, and we had several different turbo configurations on the car. So there it is. Yeah,
there's one of them, and it's huge, as you can see.
Yeah, that's the GT40. That was the 45, no, the 42 RS. So that's like a 1200 horsepower turbo, and we got that up to about 800 wheel. So yeah, it was a fun car. There was kind of the other thing is Volkswagen made a version of this with a W12 in it, like in 05.
It was on a Mark V chassis, right? It was based off of a Mark V, I think, or Mark 6.
It may have been, yeah. No, you're right. I think it was a Mark V platform. But the whole thing, about that car was, it looks cool. It's a cool concept. It drives like crap. It's not fast. And so we really wanted to do, take that concept and actually make it work. And so this car has seen the track many, many times, and it's still doing track time. Car's currently out in Nebraska, and it does half-mile events out in that area.
And as we were talking before the show, Javad, we were kind of getting set up here. I mentioned that I got the chance to see this car at Laguna Seca back in the day. I can't remember what year that was. It had to have been somewhere around 2009, 2010-ish, I think,
yeah.
if I wanted to guess. But it was during was it the World Tuner Shootout? Or no, that was the
GMG Global Time Attack.
That's right. Really cool event, but it was great to see, this is not just a show car. This is a functional car that hits the track and is still hitting the track to this day from what you told us, which is great.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's kind of, overall my philosophy when it comes to 034 Motorsport products and cars in general is they're really they should be built and meant to be driven. So I do struggle with the whole car show scene where there's this image of performance that doesn't translate to the reality. But everything we do, like if this car couldn't go around track, I wouldn't want to have my name on it. I wouldn't want to have anything to do with it. So that's just our philosophy. It all comes together.
The picture that's on the screen for anybody that can see it right now is the car we're talking about. It's the GTI RS at Woostafest. I believe this was 2011 in Vegas, an event that I hosted. And so,
are you allowed to say Woostafest 2011? Wasn't that after we dropped the fest?
No. This was the very end of Fest, I believe. It might have been Woosta, actually. I'm not sure. Whatever.
I think it was Woosta.
But Javad and I go back at least this far because he brought the car out to the event that I was hosting. And actually, I love this picture. So it's a picture. Yeah. If you Google Woosta 2011, WUSTE 2011, and GTI RS, you'll see a picture. It's an amazing capture. And this was Sam Dew that took this picture of the car mid two-step, shooting flames. With the trunk open and obviously I love this as I think this ended up being our marketing picture for the next year, but obviously it's awesome, but it does such a good job of showing just how aggressive and wide this car is. How the fenders are not of this world. That is not a GTI. And I remember
if you look at the rear bumper cover, see that kind of the straight portions on the side. So that's the stock bodywork, and then where it flares out, that's all new material that was a fiberglass molding that we did. We the rear track is almost a foot wider than stock, so we had to do a lot of bodywork to get that to fit.
Wow.
So
it looks amazing. It really does. It's such a cool car. I love that it's still running around too.
Yeah.
What was the inspiration? Other than, hey, this would be crazy. What got the wheels turning for this to become a reality?
So the whole concept would have been probably in 2010. We took our Time Attack A4 with a 24 valve VR6. We took that to the Eurotuner GP. Which is no longer Eurotuner in general is out of business. But so we swept that event that year. We won all three events. There you go. So we won the road course, we won the dyno, and we won the drag racing, and then we won the overall event. And so we were in the truck and trailer on the way home, coming up I-5, and we were all pretty pumped. and we were just talking about, well, what are we going to do next? Because we don't want to keep coming back with this car. And so this Audi, this particular Timex Tech A4 was an Audi with a Volkswagen engine. So I just started thinking, well, what if we did a Volkswagen with an Audi engine? And you know, at the time, especially in the around that time in 2010, the 2.7 was the motor. Everybody was modding it. We were selling like 10 to 20, $30,000 motor builds a month. We were doing big turbo kits, and so that immediately it was like, well, okay, well, if we're gonna do an Audi motor, it's the 2.7. So, and then if we're gonna do a Volkswagen, and there's really no good way to put a 2.7 in the front of a Volkswagen, so it kind of went from there.
I have to show this picture just because it's so cool. I forgot it had the side pipes on it.
Yeah.
It's just such a wicked looking car in general.
That was a great car. That car is also in Colorado, and it's still being used and driven, to my knowledge. But when that picture was taken, the car had a high revving 2-liter stroked out 1.8T motor in it. We would rev that to about 9,000 RPM, and that motor made about 600 wheel and 450 foot-pounds of torque at the wheels, which is more than many diesel turbo trucks make. Not bad for a little 2-liter high revving motor.
Absolutely. And then you said it ended up with a VR in it. Was that before or after that had VR in it?
It started with a 12-valve VR6. That was the original concept, and we actually developed a conversion package to put a 12-valve VR6 in an Audi A4, and we sold many of those. And that
is still one of my favorite swaps to this day. And that's a project car that I would love to do because I love VRs and I love B5 A4s, and I think it's just the perfect marriage. I think you guys nailed it.
Yeah, it really doesn't make sense. It's really not logical. Like like a lot of things that take off and are successful. If it came up in a board meeting, you'd be like, no, that's a terrible idea. We're never gonna do that. But because you're dumb and you probably drank too much, and so we had this was back in like 2005 at our first original location at 034 Motorsport. There was a shop that opened up behind us on the other side of the complex, and their goal was to put us out of business, and they wanted to take all of our business. So they tried to put us out of business for about 3 months, and then they went out of business, and they ended up leaving a bunch of cars in the parking lot, and a 12-valve VR6 Passat just kind of sat there for way too long, and so we had this A4 shell. And one day it was parked right next to the Passat. And so I was on the parking lot just sort of looking at these cars.
The wheels start turning. Like, what happens if we can just maybe combine 1 and 2 here?
That's right.
I like it.
And the Touareg and the variants of it in Europe have a longitudinal mounted VR6. So that kind of started the idea of looking into the possibility. And it just went from there. But literally, if that Passat hadn't been abandoned in our parking lot, the idea probably would have never,
And what is
made sense.
And what is 034?
Well, yeah, let's go back. Why don't we talk about just the origin of the shop? How did it start? What does the name come from? Give us the backstory on it.
The company started out of again, my obsessive hobby mentality. I started tuning Audis in the late 90s. I worked in the Volkswagen aftermarket. There was really no Audi aftermarket back then in like the late 90s. I mean, APR started in 98. They were probably the first, company to really become big and successful selling parts for new current Audi models. So I just started tweaking with some older Audis I had at the time. They weren't that old. And I became obsessed with Audi turbo swaps. So in the late 90s, the ultimate mod was to take an Audi 5000 turbo motor and put it into a small chassis Audi, like an Audi 4000 Quattro or an Audi 8090. And so the very early infant internet became in the Audi niche, became obsessed with these i5 turbo swaps. So I committed to doing one of those, and I did, but I wasn't really happy with the 162 horsepower that motor produced. And so I started looking for ways to get more power. out of it. And there you go.
I think that was the original one, right?
So that's the 80TQ, and that's arguably the car that started 034 Motorsport. But the really the thing that started the company was I was looking for a way to put EFI on the car, because these cars all had a Bosch CIS system, which is a continuous injection system. Mercedes, Porsches had it all throughout the 80s, and Audi actually used it through 1990. 91 range, which is crazy.
Yep, my 92 GLI 16 valve had CIS.
Yes, all the Volkswagens of that era.
I believe I know the headaches of a Mark II with CIS injection. It's not a fun thing to deal with.
Yeah, so that's just there's basically a nozzle that gets pressurized fuel behind it, and so it's always just atomizing fuel. There's no pulses like an electronic injector, but the system worked okay. It was fine until you wanted to crank the power up. And I was like, I need 300 horsepower. I don't want 180. People would get it up to like 210 horsepower. And I did that, and I got bored with that really quick. So I became obsessed with how to put EFI on an Audi 5-cylinder. And at the time, there were really no 5-cylinders there was no EFIs that would support an odd fire. So all the EFIs out there, like Electromotive and SDS, they could fire 2 or 4 or 6 or 8 injectors, and you had to get into Motec, which at the time, even at that back then, was like 10 grand. You had to get into something like that. So I started working with 2 engineers, electrical and software engineers, and we developed 034 EFI, which was one of the first affordable EFI systems that could run any number. You could run a 7-cylinder if there was such a thing. And so that's really, I started posting about that 80TQ project at the time. They weren't called, blogs, but I started basically blogging in HTML, a website. It's still up. It's 80tq.com. And pretty soon people from all over started contacting me, asking me if I could build them one as well. And the business really, kind of took off. In 2004, I sold $300,000 of these EFI systems out of my apartment.
And that's 15 years ago.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I would go to my day job, and then I would
what?
Home. I was running a video production company. We would do like corporate videos and things like that. But I would go there for about 8 hours, and then I would come home, and I think I was probably getting like 4 or 5 hours of sleep, at that point. And I was just building harnesses and building ECUs, soldering circuit boards, assembling ECU, cases. And pretty soon I was ordering sensors and, all the accessories to make it work. And that continued in 04. And then finally in 05, I quit my day job and went full-time with 034 EFI. At the time it was called 034 EFI. And then I changed the name to 034 Motorsport towards the end of 05.
I have to share this 80TQ page just because it's so cool that it's still like it was. It still looks like it's period correct, awesome. If I want to put it that way. So just to show, go check it out. It's 80tq.com. Yeah. Still up, still has some cool content on it, definitely.
Yeah, no, I haven't edited it in probably at least 10 years, but
and I feel like I remember. So I was at New Dimensions in 2005.
Oh, there's one I haven't heard in a long time.
New Dimensions?
Yeah, I went to New Dimensions. So this is actually kind of so. I'll go back to kind of Genesis for Volkswagen with me. I was at the LA Auto Show. I think this was in 2003, and on the stand at the LA Auto Show, it was a Black Magic Pearl 1.8T GLI. And it was up on the stand, and it had the BBS wheels and the body kit, and it was like the Black Magic Pearl under a bright light is nuts. It looks like it's like
gorgeous. It's out of control.
And it looks like it's a custom color. So I walk up to the Volkswagen stand and I say, "Oh, like this thing's awesome." Like at this point, a lot of my friends had the 1.8T Jettas, and one of my really good friends had a VR GLI, and so I saw this car. I'm like, this thing is insane. Like, what, can we order it in this color? and they're like, oh yeah, this car is just like, it's black Magic Pro. Yeah, it's available. I'm like, oh, that's so crazy. What about the wheels? Are they available? Can you order these wheels? They're like, no, like the car comes like this. This is just how the car looks. I'm like, no, okay, but like the Recaros, like that's insane. Like that's so cool. How did you guys get it? Like, no, yeah, like Recaros come with it too.
It's like, but that's the Euro one only, right? That's not going to be in the US. It's just the Euro one.
My mind was blown. I'm like, holy shit, are you serious? So at that moment, like, I have to fucking have one. And so it had the 1.8T obviously in it. So I went into Volkswagen. I'm like, I started drooling over the car. And I'm like, all right, I want one. I got to have one. So I worked out a deal to lease one. And I had to have been 19 at the time. I had no credit. And so I called my dad. I'm like, hey, Dad, like, I need you to co-sign for me. Like, I need you to co-sign this lease for me. It's only like $300 a month. I'd saved up a bunch of money from like working as a waiter or whatever. My dad comes to the dealership. He's like, listen, like, I'm not going to co-sign for a car for you when you don't have a fucking job. So like 5 minutes later, my salesperson comes back, and his name's Sal. I still keep in touch with him. And he goes, okay, fine, you're hired. You start on Monday. So my dad said, like, just keep the job for a couple months and I'll co-sign for you. So I ended up working for Volkswagen for 5 years, ended up being like the number 3 salesperson in the country. But that was like my genesis for Volkswagen. So I had this platinum gray GLI, which had those BBS wheels. And I started this little car club called SoCal Dubbers. And so it was like just like a bunch of like misfits. Like we weren't like, it was like the kid, we would go to like the pre-existing meet, which is at Village Coffee Roasters. Anybody that's like on the car lounge and stuff like that, who's like, it's all going to be flying back through memories. But one of the guys there, Brad, was R32 kid, who I still keep in touch with him. I've stayed with him before. He had just gotten an R32. And so we said, like, we were like the first people to do this. I was like, dude, what if we swapped wheels? Because
let's put the Aristos on the GLI and put the RCs.
Oh my god! So
it's like we would have broken the internet if that was a thing back then.
It was. We were the first people to do this swap, and I was like, okay, like I got now Aristos on my GLI. This is insane. I'm going to go up to this show this weekend. So I literally I got like a bunch of people like, oh yeah, I'd be down. Like, let's cruise, whatever. So like everyone flaked except for like a couple people. We bombed up the 5. It was fun. But I didn't know anyone at all because I was really fresh in like the scene. And so I went up to New Dimensions, didn't have a hotel room, and I was just going to like figure it out when I got there. So I got up there and I met the NFJ guys, the no fucking joke guys, who 98% of the people listening to this are not going to understand at all. But like they were like the shit when it came to like the Volkswagen Audi crew at the time.
It was like the hardest hitting cars you could imagine for that time. And still are. I mean, look back at them, they're amazing.
And they still have the most, like Wendell and all of them still have insane cars. But like every single trophy was going to an NFJ car every single time. So they were out at the host hotel. They were like at the next lot over. They're like washing and detailing their cars. And I kind of like meandered over like, oh, hey guys, like cars are sick. Like I don't know anything about them. And they just like, just fast friends immediately. Like we were just like, they were cool. They were welcoming, exactly the opposite of what I'd run into for like, in a couple other like the SoCal sects.
The little LA scene that was just what it was. It was very cliquish and that kind of stuff.
So I went up to New Dimensions and I became good friends with them. And I ended up crashing on Wendell's floor. Like, I just met them that day. And like, I instantly like fell in love. I was like, this is the coolest shit. Like, I love this. This is so cool. Like, what a cool community. And like, I had a great time at the car show. And so actually like New Dimensions is kind of what like Woosta Fest was originally like. Yeah. I wanted to have the host hotel be a really integral part of the event because I remembered how cool that was hanging out. People literally like brought the furniture out of their hotel rooms, like out in the parking lot. And it was organized mayhem, but it was awesome. And so like that weekend, literally like I wouldn't be sitting here. Kevin and you and I wouldn't know each other if it wasn't for that weekend, New Dimensions. That was 2005, where I rolled up there just proud as can be, wearing my new Aristo swapped GLI, which if I remember correctly, Brad, if you're listening to, I think you got in trouble with your dad for doing it.
Did he even go to that? Did he go to the show? Because that was before I knew you. No. So you just stole his wheels and took your car up to 5.
Wheels and I bounced. Yeah.
And you put a ton of miles on it and his probably sat in the driveway.
Yeah, I don't think we even thought about that. Dude, we were like 20. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, it was just cool to have it. I remember, I can't remember what show it was. We went to something. No, it was. I saw pictures of it. It must have been. You had the two cars at maybe it was SoCal Euro or one of those Dub Fest or something.
Dub
like
Fest.
I remember seeing
Dub
the pictures
Fest.
of
Oh,
both
Dub
of them.
Fest was
Yep.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to go that every year.
So you've always just kind of been a little bit of like a tech nerd. Is that an accurate statement? Are you like you're kind of you're the man behind the scenes as far as figuring out coding and stuff like that? Is that you?
No, actually, I'm I definitely like getting technical, but I'm not an engineer in the sense that, I'm the guy who's doing all the most technical work. So I'm more of a generalist, and I'm someone who figures out how to get all the resources together to accomplish the task.
Like a project manager.
Yeah, or like ultimately the CEO or the president who's bringing together all the pieces to accomplish the goal. But I need to know enough to be able to lead the effort, but then I also need to know when to kind of get out of the way and let the people who really know what they're doing.
We're getting very close to a very political conversation here.
Oh, that wasn't my intention. But,
no, and it's fine. Whatever you want.
But no, there is something to be said for that. And for example, like at 034 Motorsport, my right-hand technical guy has always been Nate Stewart. And, my goal is Nate's he's just a brilliant guy. He's an incredible programmer. He understands stuff about computers. I can't even identify what it is.
He can like taste coding kind of thing. Like he's like,
yeah, he just figures crazy difficult computer stuff out that my laptop would be smashed against the wall, and he's can actually go way beyond that.
Woodwork.
My goal is
Shavad, woodwork.
Yeah.
It's okay.
But my goal is to keep Nate freed up, so Nate doesn't have to worry about payroll. Nate doesn't have to worry about taxes. Nate is hopefully given this neat little world to allow him to focus at what he does best. And I shield him from all that, and then I make sure that there's enough money for him to keep doing what he does. So together we accomplish the goals we set out to. But my goal is to make the whole effort come together and to bring people like Nate to make it happen.
So speaking of the business side, tell us about Empy. I mean, it's anyone that's been anywhere near the classic, anywhere near the car scene.
Volkswagen scene.
Yeah, the car scene before it was Fast and Furious and Instagram would know the name Empy. How did 034 or you come to being, it being part of your business portfolio?
Yeah, so I spent about 13, 14 years building 034 Motorsport to what it had become. And I was at a point where I felt like I had done as much as I could with my own money, my own resources, with my own finances. And so every business comes to this point where if they want to grow and go to the next level, they need to bring on an investor. They need to borrow some large sum of money, or they need to merge with a bigger company who can give them those resources. And so I decided, so it would have been October 2018, right before SEMA that year. I decided to put the company up for sale with the goal of finding an opportunity to become a part of a bigger organization that could afford me those resources, that could take a lot of the business,
Sure.
the rudimentary business day-to-day stuff off my plate. Because when you're the owner of a business, you are literally responsible for everything. And if you can find other people to do it, great. But when it comes to money and finances, it's really, really difficult to trust someone else completely with that. And I actually did that in the past, and they embezzled from me. So when it comes to managing the money, and I'm the one that signs all the checks, I'm the one that determines who to pay based on how much money we have on hand. All that stuff takes a lot of my energy. I'm not particularly good or great at doing that stuff, but I am, remarkably talented at a lot of other things in the business. And so for me, I knew that if I could get myself out of the things that I'm not very good at, I could focus on the things that I'm best at, that would set me up to be, and 034 Motorsport to be more successful than it had ever been. So I ended up having conversations with several big players in the industry that you probably know of. And some of the opportunities were basically they wanted to absorb 034 Motorsport. They wanted to kind of shut down our facility, take the products, put them in their catalog, and sort of consolidate the company. And that wasn't really the opportunity that I was looking for. So sometimes you just never know how these things play out. But one day somebody from MP called and said, "Hey, we're interested in acquiring your business." And I was like, "Okay, well, yeah, let's see if that's true. Let's set up a call, with the other people who are interested in making this investment." And so the conversation started right exactly a year ago, pretty much, probably could have been to the day a year ago. And it became pretty apparent that MP was really interested in helping me grow the company. They were helping 034 Motorsport and going to the next level. They wanted to keep all of our staff. They wanted to keep me. And they were willing to give us the financial resources to take on the exciting opportunities that we had always wanted to, but just didn't have the money to do so. And what we do for MP is we help MP, have a more modern, current opportunity. So they're selling parts for 40-year-old cars, and that market's not growing. The cars are rusting,
dying
away,
out, right?
going away, right. And so they're thinking, where do we want to be? Where are we going to be in 5 or 10 years from now? And having a company like 034 Motorsport building current products for brand new current models gives them that opportunity in the future as well. So they're sort of this cash cow business. They generate a lot of money, a lot of profit, but they're not necessarily doing anything really innovative. We, on the other hand, are this kind of lean, mean, innovative company, but we have
could really use the cash to
we have a hard time. Yeah, we could always use more money because we're always, like, literally every year, right? There's new Volkswagen Audi models.
You're always trying to stuff a fucking S4 motor into the middle or something of a GTI. Those things don't happen for free.
No, they don't. So we have a never-ending appetite for money and resources to keep pushing the envelope forward. So it's actually it's kind of we're kind of this odd couple, but it's actually a match made in heaven. And so we're about it officially finalized October 25th of last year. So I guess we're about 6-7 months into it, and it's
just before SEMA of last year.
Yeah, so we closed right before SEMA, and we made the announcement basically the week of SEMA. Yeah,
very cool. Well, I'm going to drink to that, and with that, bring in our beer sponsor real quickly. So I'm actually, believe it or not, Kevin, this might surprise you. I'm drinking the obviously Platform Beer Codes, but they're Tart Fizz. And I announced very adamantly last time that I was not a sour beer drinker. But
you were pretty pessimistic about it, yeah, when we started.
It's so good. It's super delicious, and I'm almost done. I mean, I opened up towards the beginning of the broadcast here, and I'm just about done at this point. Super delicious. I'm very much enjoying it. Even if you are, so let's say, malts, 2-row, white wheat, acidulated, flaked wheat, hops, crystal, yeast, American ale, beer in the moment, adjuncts, tangerine, lime. It's a 5.5. 11 proof. Pretty decent. It's super delicious, though. I'm actually enjoying it. You're drinking out of a beer, Kevin. That means you're not drinking out of your keg.
Well, since you gave me so much shit last time for drinking my keg beer, which I'm really enjoying and still drinking, I decided to throw it back to we're talking 034. Let's talk NorCal. Let's talk Lagunitas, because one of my favorite breweries from California. This is a Dogtown Pale Ale. Solid beer. Can't go wrong with it. And just kind of a throwback to Petaluma, California from the NorCal days for sure.
Listen, if you're going to pet anything, might as well be a Luma.
That's what I always say. What about you, Javon? What are you drinking on tonight?
Well, that beer you're drinking sounds really good, Brandon. I don't know if it's available out here, but I'd like to try it. I didn't know that there was like this cool beer thing going on, but this is pretty much what I've been drinking lately, the Deschutes. This is the Fresh Haze IPA. I also really love the fresh squeezed. So I really love these beers that are hoppy and also have a kind of a citrus note to them. The fresh haze I guess I would call it like a quality shock top, where it has a little bit more of a sweet, more palatable, but the fresh squeeze from Deschutes is very hoppy and has like a very hoppy floral citrus. Doesn't taste like oranges or anything like that.
So are you going to say it, Brandon, or do you want me to say it?
No, let's not. Come on, man. Come on, let's not. There's always a super bad reference to be made.
There's always one. But
so first of all, what I think would be cool is if Kevin, we should set up like a care package to send to people, like some sort of like a thank you gift and like a beer. I think it would be a cool thing to send to people either in advance or after, because Javad's like the third guest we've had on recently. I'm like, oh, dude, like I'm sure he'd like this beer. I don't know how easy it is to like mail somebody beer, but I think it'd be awesome.
Yeah,
it's technically illegal.
Listen,
too.
I'm mailing. This is the loophole. I'm mailing you the envelope, and the beer is free. Isn't that
we'll
how?
Talk about that one offline, Brandon. But yeah, no, it doesn't work that way. It's actually
damn it.
Not ship liquor.
All right, fine.
A license.
Listen, we're gonna go ahead and get like we'll rent a car and we're gonna load up and we're gonna go full original IMSA on it.
There you go. That's a draw. I like that one. I can get behind that.
We'll live stream it. But so Javad, of all the cars that have been through your shop, what's like what's your favorite? Like what is your like? And you guys work primarily on the Volkswagen, Audi, Porsche stuff, right?
Yeah.
So for me, right now I am lusting hard after a first gen 4.2 R8. I want one so bad. I actually just today was texting my brother going like, it'd be really stupid for me to spend $65,000 on a car when I'm like trying to keep a business afloat, right? Like,
especially right now, I don't think it's the best financial decision at the moment.
I'm getting an itchy trigger finger though, and I just so like
funny, funny that you said that though, Brandon. I'm just going to throw this for Javad.
Well, that's a 5.2.
There you go. No, this is my.
It's a V8.
This is it
says V8 in the caption.
Oh, really?
That's the day I picked it up at the dealership. So it's a facelift car.
You have an R8?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, it's awesome.
Has an R8.
I thought you knew that, Brandon. I thought that. I mean, I know you're always lusting after these cars. I've known you for that long, but
Javad has an R8.
It is awesome. It's they're a bargain for what you get. There's a good one's still going to be 60 to 80 grand on the wind. But it's a fun car. I mean, I was just going to say that's probably the funnest car that I've gotten to drive and own.
Javad, you have an R8.
I've had a lot of great cars. I mean, I really can't complain. I mean, I've had first gen TTRS. I have a second gen. I've had a 996 turbo, which was incredible.
But you have an R8.
It is awesome.
We're gonna have to. You know what? Let's just talk about the R8 for a while.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay? Yeah.
So I think I saw it's DSG, right? Yours.
It is a DSG.
Yeah. Which I mean, listen, I'm not going to shit on it because the DSG is not like the E gear of the original, like the original trash automatic transmission.
It's not good.
No. On a funny side note, actually, I was looking at this picture and I'm like, they made a V8 DSG. I didn't even know that until today. I thought all of the non-3-pedal cars were the E gear, or the E or whatever.
R-tronic, right?
R-tronic. That's right. That Lamborghini was the E gear, I think.
Yeah. How do you call it? The R-tronic, and it's a single clutch that's hydraulic
SMG basically.
Yeah, it is. It's the SMG technology.
It's the flappy paddle gearbox that Jeremy Clarkson always talks so much shit about. Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah, the problem is it does shift for you, which is you don't have to move your arm, but it shifts. It's kind of like a granny shift. So it's like a 0.3 of a second shift, and it's not very aggressive. So the DSG is like seamless. I mean, you're talking milliseconds. And then the R-tronic does have some reliability issues. Since the ECU is controlling the clutch, sometimes it lets it slip too much, and the car will end up burning its own clutch out. but they're not bad. And you can get into those cheaper because they go back to like '08 on those. But the DSG is the ultimate, I think. If you want a car you can drive really fast, the DSG is the way to go.
Oh, absolutely. I always, it's funny. The single clutch automated manuals are an interesting topic for me because I like an E46 M3 as an example with an SMG in it. I think they just got a lot of heat because the people that reviewed them or the people that drove them when they were new, they drove them like it was an automatic, and you can't drive it like it's an automatic and expect it to be a torque converter automatic. Doesn't work.
Dude, I don't. But that's horse shit. Because you could say the same thing for the original smart car, which was, by the way, the worst transmission ever. But
just like you say, all manuals are not. Just like you say, Brandon, all manuals are not created equal. All single clutch automated manuals are not created equal. So I'm saying there's a couple good ones out there. I'm not saying I would take that over the DSG by any means. I just think it's an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure.
Yeah, but if you can get into a DSG, that's the way to go. And honestly, I think the V8's really underappreciated. I think everyone automatically thinks you got to have the V10. It's 2 extra cylinders, so it's not. It's definitely more power, but the V8, sometimes cars can be too fast, and you find yourself dealing with the entry speed every time you go into a corner. And that entry speed doesn't necessarily make you faster through the corner. So sometimes if you can go into the corner and not have to slow down so much, you can maintain more
trail
speed.
brake more and all that. Yeah,
you can get through the corner. So, it's still 130 horsepower. It's
Kevin, I just realized you met Javad. You guys met very briefly at the Optima, the Ultimate Supercar or whatever
street car challenge.
Yeah, you guys were last year. It was 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
You guys were there with the TTRS that you guys.
Oh, okay, you were there. All
That's right.
Cool.
Yep.
It's when you were put. It's when it was the autocross day, and you guys were mid race fuel refill.
Oh yeah,
when we stumbled over, and I will emphasize stumbled. But yeah, I think yeah. Which listen, God willing, we're able to do it again next year, right? But
I can only hope, yeah.
Or this year, I guess, for that matter. But yeah, I think the V8 and the R8 is perfect also, and I think you could the V10 was automatic only, right? There was no stick shift in the V10, I don't think, right?
Yeah, no, they do. They have the H pattern gearbox in the V10s as well.
Crazy. But yeah, no, what I love. So, and we actually had George and Bill from Audi Club North America on last week, which obviously you know them very well.
Yeah.
And George brought up a really interesting point about the first gen R8, and I had never really considered it, but it makes a lot of sense. Is that the buyers of that first gen R8, and he's likened them to what he is noticing of the buyers of the forthcoming RS6 Avant. But that it's like an aspirational vehicle. It's something that maybe everybody was maybe stretching themselves a little bit more than what they maybe should have in order to get into it. But that you found that the V8 cars weren't all crazy spec, because the full leather and the Bang & Olufsen and all those things were all options. The sport seats, all so what you find is a lot of these more basic V8 cars, where the V10 cars are all the crazy spec, so the price gulf is so big. And so when I'm looking, I'm currently in my Boxster, and I'm not buying anything until I buy my R8. But I look at the R8, the V8, I'm like, well, it's an RS4 mechanically, basically, and it's pretty much especially in a manual, it's not although it's a supercar feel and a supercar performance, it's not made of hen's teeth, and you don't have to bathe in the tears of a. And so I love that because to me it is an attainable supercar, and I'm so smitten by him. It's out of control.
The crazy thing about the car is it's literally I didn't think this before I got it, but it's actually kind of the ultimate daily driver. It's comfortable. It's not real
plenty
stiff.
Of headroom.
It has good headroom. I'm not very tall, but I have plenty. The seat will drop way down to the floorboards, unlike a sedan. The seat will you can sit right on the floor if you need to. And it's smooth and easy to drive. It's not twitchy or there's nothing special you need to do. So it's very drivable. It's just if it's two people and you just have a frunk to deal with. So it's not practical in that way. But as far as the driving experience, I mean, you could close your eyes, and if you're just going down the road, you could be in an A4. You wouldn't know.
And I mean, listen, you can daily it just like people daily 911s. Like it's not it's not as if like while you can technically only fit two people in the R8, you basically can only fit two people in a 911. And so for me,
from literally just sitting in the back of a 991 not too long ago, you cannot sit back there. And I'm not that tall. I'm 5'7".
No, I have legs.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, if you have legs, you can't sit back there. But
how tall are you, Javad?
I'm like 5'8", so same.
Oh, so you guys are both equally adorable.
Fit perfectly in an R8. I've always loved them. I think they've aged very graciously. I think they still look fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I want one so badly. I literally just today was looking for.
Javad, you're the right person to ask this question to, and I won't spend too much time on this topic because it'll get too technical. But the main thing with like the B6 and B7 S4s with the timing chains on the back of the motor and the tensioners that would fail, and that was always kind of the oh no, that's the the service you don't want to have. Is that a problem on the R8s, or is it more accessible? Is it on the is the motor flipped around? How does that work on those?
Yeah, those motors aren't exactly the same. So the R8 motor is basically the same as what's in the RS4, the B7Rs, the B7 RS4. The B6 and B7 S4 V8s are, I mean, they're cool cars, but you better have like $5,000 just sitting around.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or a repair. The R8's extremely reliable. You just need to do carbon cleanings on it. Great. Like that's why it's very a reliable car. I think Brandon's right. There's no hen's teeth in it.
That's it. That's what I wanted to hear, because that's what I wanted to make sure of, was that wasn't still an issue, and obviously that they had gone past all that stuff, which is great.
I've had it for a year now.
And how many techs do you guys have at 034 now?
We have 4 full-time techs.
Okay, so that also doesn't hurt, Kevin.
No, it's nice, but no, the car hasn't been getting repaired. And sometimes, there's that saying about the mechanic's car never gets fixed, because when we have our techs work on the company cars, they're not working on a customer car.
It costs you just the same. It costs you just as much an opportunity. It costs
$300 an hour to have them work on it because of the opportunity cost.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
No, they're great, reliable cars. There's really not a lot of known issues with them.
So you're saying that I should just buy one?
It sounds like you should just go buy one, Brandon. I think that's the move. I think Javad just sealed the deal for you.
Here's what's so difficult for me about not. But first of all, it's just I shouldn't spend the money. Like it's not if I could find somebody, again, just like the RS6, I could find like a 12 to 15 year loan, that'd be fantastic. But so what really like twists my nipples about not buying the R8 is that I just have this sense that they've bottomed very hard. Like the $65,000 R8 will be a thing of the past in the very near future. And by time I'm able to strap on my big boy shoes and buy one, I think they're going to be out of reach. It's going to be a lot like the 993 or the 964 Porsche
Even
stuff.
996 Turbo was the same way. I mean, they dropped to like mid 30s and they're back up to 50 now. 50 plus.
And if you want one and you don't pull the trigger on it, the odds of it being, listen, I'm not going to spend $90,000 or $80,000 on a 15-year-old R8. So it's just going to become where it's like, oh shit, I can't afford to buy it right now. And if I wait to buy it in the future, I probably won't be willing to, because they'll probably be out of reach. And I'm not going to spend that kind of money on a car that's going to be an occasional driver.
It'll just be another missed opportunity, just like that. I can list a million of them that I should have bought that when it was right. Yeah,
that's interesting. You might be right. I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think the R8, just, again, because of its simplicity, it's not like it's a car just like the 993. Really, like it's a car that you can drive and you can put some miles on, and it's not going to cost you a ton in either depreciation or in maintenance. And if you just take care of it, it'll run forever, and it's a timeless classic piece.
Well, I think you're right. I just don't see R8 selling for like $40,000 anytime soon.
It ain't going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to go. Yeah. Exactly.
So
They're pretty much at the
goes
bottom.
40, then someone's going to pay 45, someone's going to pay 50, and
Oh,
that's definitely what happened in 996s, because there was like a year or two there where 996s were like they were just giving them away, and people started realizing like this is a 450 horsepower, rocket, and you can pick one up for $25 grand.
With the Metzger with no INS, it's completely tunable.
And the 996 turbo is also rock solid reliable. I think really the only issue is the coolant pipes need to be pinned.
And the assholes that take the suspensions out of them to put them in the back of GTIs.
Yeah, well,
you never know where you can park it.
Yeah, somebody drove theirs into a telephone pole, and then I got the rear suspension off it. So
that's hilarious.
See on Auto Trader real quick before we move off the the R8 conversation, the cheapest R8 in the country right now is $54,984, Brandon. And it is black with black wheels, and it is slammed lowered.
Oh no,
like a $59,000, 60, somewhere between like just below 60 and 65, you can buy a totally reasonable, less than 30,000 mile manual transmission.
Here's a great one. 2009, 55,000 miles, or I'm sorry, 55,994, 35,000 miles, and it's at an Audi dealership. And it looks
Is it
fantastic.
the silver one?
No, it's black.
Okay.
Here's a camo wrapped one. There's some gold on the Audi R8.
Wait, I gotta see if I can find. I'm gonna pull up the one that I sent to my brother. It's on.
Oh my god, it's at Buyers. Audi Columbus has it's camo wrapped,
but it's automatic.
Yeah, but that guy wants to go to Woost. So
that guy's. Here you go. Boom. That's the car. Raleigh, North Carolina. That's my car right there. Dude, 59,978. It's manual. It's less than 35,000 miles. It's V8. I mean, the guy, it's OZs. So like the guy either has been on Tire Rack once or
he went on Tire Rack. That's
once.
Pretty much where you get OZs.
he went over the curb and had to replace his wheels. But dude, the R8, it's just so beautiful. It's so simple. I love it so much. I want one.
And they even make, and I know this, I was just talking to a friend about, he was potentially thinking about picking one up as a daily. They do make an updated, like an aftermarket nav system that has CarPlay and all that kind of stuff in it too. Yep. And it integrates very nicely, which is
that's one of the
they just don't have the technology package that the newer cars have. And unfortunately, Audi didn't change the car at all. Basically from 08 through 2015, there's a couple little tweaks, but they didn't update anything. So the newer cars didn't get the newer technology that's even.
So you're not really missing out on the tech side if you're going for an earlier model versus a later model. Let's say you're getting a stick, so you're not worried about the single clutch versus the dual clutch. You're gonna get pretty much the same thing.
I think that's the same nav and everything.
And one of the things that's so funny, so I was just after I had a crisis with the R8, and then after I kind of started to fizzle back a little bit, I watched the Top Gear Clarkson review where he reviewed the first gen R8 with I want to say it was the Carrera S. It was a Hammond's 9997, I think, Carrera S, one where it's like kind of sliding all over the place and they're fucking around with each other. And now I completely forgot what I was going to say. Damn you, Peter!
I'm just going to put this up
I remember.
While you think about it, just because this is.
Oh Jesus! Oh my God! Make it go. Turn that off.
Domination.
I'm turning it off. There, it's off. Damn you, Kevin! No, I remember. So it was funny. Man. So Clarkson comments on the LED daytime running lights because the R8 was like one of the very first cars to do that, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not so sure about that. It looks stupid." And it's like little
this is a fad that's not going to stick.
This is definitely not. Who would possibly like this?
If there's one complaint I have about this car, it would be pulling off those daytime running lights.
Yeah, there's no way. Oh, I want it so bad. Yeah, I think the buyer's car is an auto, but yeah, no. So
it is, but it does have the really cool, like kind of the peanut butter interior in it, which is nice.
Yeah,
I don't know what color it is underneath, but it looks like it might be gray or black.
Javad, you mentioned that like the tech is a little lacking, but honestly, like coming from, I have a 2005 Boxster. It's like one of the things that I like most about it is that it's very basic. So it's like it's border, like I guess you could say it's timeless, but there's nothing about the interior that's gonna look old. Like the 996 stuff, for example, to me got real old looking. Like it wasn't quite there. Yeah, it dated a bit, but like I think the R8 interiors, other than the MMI, which
Yeah.
can be addressed. But that's one of the things that drive me the most crazy about the new Audi stuff is that that integrated screen they went to in the A6.
Yeah.
There was like with the little like knob,
Like the little mouse knob thing. Yeah.
The little iDrive kind of thing.
MMI.
It made it so it was impossible essentially to update that stuff. Every car that has just a double DIN radio, worst case scenario, you can pull it out and throw a new one in. No matter how old it is, it looks like like my 2005 Boxster has CarPlay in it because they didn't try to integrate the fucking screen.
Not anymore though. You can't touch that stuff on newer cars now because the car won't even start or run. Everything is connected through the CAN bus system.
So actually, that brings up an interesting question, especially for you on the the shop side. Is from what I understand, it looks like the Mark 8, the forthcoming next generation of the GTI Golf and all that. Apparently, there's going to be some really really heavy encryption that's going to require that's going to require basically every time it's a constant loop, and that if in order to tune, basically it would throw that check immediately. And with over-the-air updates and stuff like that, they could TD1, they can mark your car as modified without even having it ever come into the shop. So like between that and the electric car, how do you guys set yourself up to for the future of tuning?
Yeah. Well, that's nothing new. So, when the B5 came out, everyone said this is the first untunable car. I remember when the current the current gen R34 GTR came out, everyone said you're not going to be able to tune it. 5 years later, there's cars making like 3,000 horsepower.
5,000 horsepower.
Right. Yeah.
That was the one I was going to bring up. Was that example? Was the R35 GTRs? Everyone was, you can't tune it. You can't tune it. They're saying the same thing about the Corvettes, the new C8 Corvettes. Oh, you can't tune them. They're not going to be able to be tuned.
Yeah. So then recently, Audi used the Bosch MG1 ECU, like in the B9 cars, and that ECU has NSA level encryption. NSA strives to have the highest most secure encryption in the world, right? So everyone's always catching up to, America's highest security standard, and we're now tuning MG1 ECU. So the problem, the problem and the solution is that IP leaks out from the companies, right? So your encryption is only as good as how well you can hide the key, and so as long as someone can find the key. Typically, this is intellectual property and documents leaking out from various companies. But once it gets out in the marketplace, then people have the keys to the locks, and they can just unlock them. Now, over-the-air updates do pose a problem, and I guess nobody ever knows what the solution is going to be, but
they'll find one.
Always, seem to come out. But it could be that at some point there will be the unsolvable, problem. So we just keep rolling with the punches. I mean, for us, even the new generation MG1, so the current B9 platform cars, we have a good 10-year run with those yet, out in the future.
Yeah, you have a lot of runway, basically.
Yeah, so we're doing a lot of B8 tuning right now, which is a 10-year-old platform, and B9 is just starting. So we've got a good 10 years with the current platform before we have to worry about the other ones, but
I'm just throwing your B9 up there on the screen just to give you a shout out because it's a great car.
What a damn good car the B9 A4 is.
They're so good, and I think they're really underappreciated. It's but the market's
Kevin and I talk all the time about our silver car experience. We did Audi with a silver car.
It was glorious.
You rented a silver car? Did have a package?
I'm pulling it up right now.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. And we did when we did our Woosta is looking to become a road trip event. So the idea being we want to allow people also to fly in. So we're going to encourage people that either don't have a reliable enough car because they have a mid-engine GTI with a S4 motor in the back, or they just drive a slammed whatever. We want to allow people to have we want to allow people to rent a car. So silver car was a way that we're definitely pushing people to say, hey, like you can rent this car and still have a damn blast.
Yeah, you can fly in and pick up, something that's not going to be out of place and still enjoy, the fun of the rally and the fun of the show and everything else.
That's a great
And they're
idea.
great. They really, and that car had 36,000 miles on it. It's the cleanest rental car I've ever been in my life. And that's out of control.
It's so good.
But as much as you like that car, once you put all our 034 Motorsport products on that, it takes it up a whole nother level.
So actually that's an interesting, 034, or sorry, 034. I think I keep saying that wrong. I'm sure you hear that a lot. I'm sure I'm sure it takes everything to not correct it. But yeah, so 034. You guys have like really an unbelievable, not only reputation but actual like catalog of products that are all rock solid. So like, how often do you guys start in on a project that you just guys find that the opportunity to do things to your standards, that they're just not going to work, right? Like, how often do you guys, okay, like, hey, we've been working on whatever tuning or whatever exhaust program for whatever car upcoming, and we can push out a product, but it's not going to be to the level that someone like me, for example, expects now of 034. Right. Does that ever happen, or do you guys just keep working until it gets there?
That's a great question. I'm really glad you asked that, because we have a engineering department project management board, and there's at any given time between 50 and 100 products in that board. Now we release about 50 new products a year. So you can imagine there's a lot more ideas and projects in fruition than the number that actually get released. So, I'd say at least half of the product concepts that we come up with, we do initial research, we explore the concepts, and then we get into the engineering. And at least half of those products never, we never bring them to market because, to your point, we can't. They don't meet our standard. They don't meet the goals that we would have. They don't have the level of substance that we would expect for a product that we're going to release. And sometimes it's disappointing. We keep trying different avenues. Sometimes the product just doesn't give the benefit that we believe it should. Sometimes we just can't find a suitable supplier to work with. Sometimes the technology's not there. But I think a lot of times it's just like, is the customer really gonna, if the customer pays $450 for this,
is it bling, right? Like, is it?
Yeah. Are they gonna feel good about spending that money? And if we can't confidently answer that question, then we're not gonna take a gamble and have you be disappointed. So yeah, we actually scrap a lot of ideas.
Do you guys is there a product or project that you've had in the past that like just keeps nagging at you, that you like, there's like that, like, I've talked to stand-up comedians and they
it just didn't work out, but you kind of always just wished. Yeah, I was trying to fill in for you, Brandon, because it was cut.
Yeah, you got it. Keep going.
Just something that you wish kind of would have worked out, or like, man, let's go back to that one or circle back and see if we can figure it out. Like, we make that bit work, I think was how you were kind of phrasing it, like a comedian would, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of an example of that. I know there's been those where it's just kind of painful to finally we have you grab the card in the project manager system, you drag it over to the trash, and in our engineering meetings we will frequently do that with product ideas. I can't think of anything specific right now, but there's been clearly many different things, products like that. The problem is, I think early on in 034 Motorsport and my time with the company, we would just push it through anyways, and just I don't know what we were thinking or what I was thinking, but it was kind of like, well, let's just get it out there, see how it does. Yeah, we'll just see, and then the backlash, the problems happen, and we've been doing this for over 15 years, so we have anyone who's been doing it as long as we have has some failures, has some poopers, and I think the biggest ones I can remember were products that we released anyways and we shouldn't have, and it created a lot of problems for us. Thankfully, it's been quite a while since we've done that, and we've learned our lessons over the years.
Yeah, it's amazing to go ahead.
I was just saying, I just love to hear that you basically don't want to throw your name on it unless it's something that you feel good about and you'd be excited about too if it was your own car. And to me, that's just it's such a nice thing to hear from a company that has so many product offerings. It's like I stand behind every single one of the products on this website.
Yeah,
and I put them all in my car if it was my personal car. Yeah,
that's the goal. I think I drive every car with every product. I'm an integral part of the engineering process that we use, and so I will drive the cars for months with these products on them, and my goal is to break them, to wear them out. But at the end of the day, I'm putting myself in the customer's position and thinking, if I paid for this, would I be happy? Is this the kind of product experience that I would want to have? So for sure, we're not gonna expect you to have lower standards than we do. And so, yeah, and it's tough. You just never know. We do make mistakes still, but we do our best to correct them as quickly as possible.
So you guys had that Mark 7 GTI, and I think it was an A3 that ran out to the Worcester event a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it seems, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you guys definitely do like kind of like a couple in-house builds. You guys have like a company car like occasionally. Is that something you guys?
We have at least 3 to 5 company cars at any given time. Yeah.
So
that was the Mark 7 GTI that we did all the initial. Many of the Mark 7 MQB products were developed on that car.
So do you have a sweetheart? Is there one of your guys' company cars that holds a special place in your heart, other than just I'm sure the original, the 80, the car you developed, but like, just, is there a car where you're like, oh man, it's going to break my heart to see that thing leave? Or to part that thing out, like is there one of those that you have a really hard time that you miss?
So I've been doing this for a while, and I've had many cars, and I also have the good fortune of driving awesome cars. No matter whatever the next car is, it's a great car. So my philosophy is, I guess I've
toot it and boot it, baby.
Maybe I'm dated, but I see the cars as a means to an end, and in a way they're an engineering fixture, and they give us the opportunity to develop these products and satisfy our customers. That was our in-house S3. So the bulk of our MQB products were developed on that car and the Mark 7.
Kevin, you couldn't have found one of the pictures of them out at Worcester? Come on, man.
I'm on 034motorsport.com. Representing 034. That's what I'm doing.
I just you have to be able to let go of the cars and move on to the next one when you're doing this for a living. So I try not to get too emotionally attached to them. I'm kind of like a pig farmer.
Save that for the R8, right?
Yeah, the R8's, man. I find an excuse to get in that car whenever I can, so that's a really fun car.
Absolutely.
So there's not the one that got away?
Yeah, I sold 80TQ, and it was a while ago. I guess sometimes I think, oh, maybe I should have kept it, but I got good money for it, and no, I don't currently have any regrets. I do. I guess if I slightly regretted one, it would be I really loved the 996 Turbo. And that's just a great car with a great motor. I mean, anything you want to do, you just push the throttle down, and massive amounts of torque and horsepower flood the drivetrain. But I could pick another one if I wanted. But
yeah, you don't look at the GTI RS and go like, oh man, at some point I want it back.
It was the thing I did, and yeah, no. It was successful, and selling it was part of the process of success. The fact that somebody was willing to pay a huge chunk of money for that car reaffirmed the fact that we built something valuable, that we built something that works. The fact that they're still out there driving it, honestly, that the new owner driving it brings more satisfaction to me than if I was driving it. That's kind of like what we do.
Yeah, it's really cool. All right. Well, I want to give you an opportunity to plug. Oh shit! I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I thought I was waiting kind of for you to bring it up, Brandon, but I didn't want to like jump in and
The
we had some good car talk
PPE
going
thing.
on.
Holy
Yeah,
crap.
absolutely.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
got to throw that
So,
out
so
there.
for those listening, the effort I believe is now wrapped up. Is that right?
Yeah. We
Um,
finished it up last week.
so Javad, really, what kind of the inspiration to have him on when we had him, or we have him now, is that Javad was just wrapped up an unbelievable effort to bring PPE to hospitals, kind of throughout the country, from what I understand, and
Yeah,
it really very. I mean, it's incredible. What it ended up being, something like $25,000, something like that.
yeah. We raised we raised about $33,000. We shipped about 22,000 KN95 masks, and it was incredible. This is like one of those things. I wish I could be involved in something like this all the time, and we were really able to find a need and meet it at a really critical time. And I think this whole pandemic has been emotional and challenging for a lot of us, and I think for me, just being able to get involved in this effort has made the time much more rewarding and exciting.
So there was a very important inspiration to get this done for you in the first place. Can you share what that was?
Yeah. So I was talking about the DIY loudspeaker project pad earlier, and I became really good friends with a guy named Jeff Bagby, who taught. He's kind of like the Zen master of DIY speaker building. He's really legendary, and he and I met about 3 years ago, and we really hit it off, and we became really fast friends. But and so he actually came on to the project pad, and he and I we still are, I guess, admins on the page, but he basically was being treated for a type of cancer, and so he was very immunosuppressed, and so he contracted COVID-19 in early March, couple, basically right as the whole coronavirus, when the emergency declaration was declared by the government. And so he was on a ventilator for 2 weeks, and he passed away in late March. So that was really tough. And but I was keeping in touch with his wife and the ICU where he was at, and at one point they said that they were running out of N95 masks, and I thought, well, I bet I can get some of those. We have suppliers in China that have that, and the challenge was finding a good, reliable supply. And so one of our machinists, the companies that does machining for us, his machine shop is right next to this pharmacy supply company, and it's a reputable pharmacy supply. They supply directly to hospitals and pharmacies. And so we were able to supply these masks through this pharmacy, and he would just basically go there, and he would buy 4,000 masks a day, which was the limit, and then he DHL'd them to us directly. So we kind of avoided all the red tape and stuff. And the amount of hospitals and medical workers that contacted us to get masks was mind-boggling. And there's a hospital in Maryland that we shipped them a shipment of masks, and they said that our shipment doubled their supply of N95 masks. Like, this is a hospital with like doctors and surgeons, people that have been in college for 10 years, and a little auto parts company is doubling their supply of these critical life-saving supplies. So yeah, it was great. Unfortunately, getting any masks out of China or anywhere has become virtually impossible with both the U.S. and China really locking down customs and the ability to bring any masks or any medical equipment over right now. So we ended the campaign, and it was successful. It paid. The donations were incredibly generous from people that donated. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. So I mean, I pride myself on being a fairly charitable person. My older brother actually taught me the way that he phrases the way that he gives, charitably, is that it should always hurt a little bit. At the end of the year when you write that check, you should feel it. And I've been involved in, we adopt families for Christmas. We do, there's a lot of this stuff that feels really nice. I don't know that I've ever been involved in something that like you, where you can say that your actions literally saved people's lives. A doctor, or a nurse, or nurse practitioner, the people on the front lines that don't have PPE, they are doing their jobs with no regard for their own health. And the fact, it's crazy to think that in 2020, in the greatest nation ever known to man, that this is a conversation that we have to have. But it was so inspiring, like to watch it take place as you collected donations and distributed this PPE. And I mean, I don't know that you can ever be commended enough for it. But literally just knowing, again, that like your actions literally not only did it save the lives of the people that need the PPE, but those people are then able to save other people's lives. Like it's so crazy to think that that these are people, people say all the time, like it's like sending people to war without armor. Basically.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it would be like saying, you don't have any bullets, you don't have any ammo, and you're on the front lines. So yeah, you're right. I mean, this should never happen in the supposedly the greatest country ever known. So I think moving forward, we really need to figure out as a society how to make sure that our hospitals are well equipped and we're more prepared for these kind of pandemics in the future.
I think one of the things that it's taught us, and we've talked about this on the show, is, it brings out the human element, and you kind of see the good in people. If you forgot that existed, there's no better time than now to be watching things like this, where, hey, we're just an auto shop in Fremont, California, but guess what? We have the ability to do this, and we're gonna get out there and make it happen, so we can help and do our part. And I think that's it's just an amazing thing when you think about it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of shitty people out there, but I think, for the most part, they represent a very small percent of the people. It could be less than 5% of the people are really shitty. And there's just a lot of apathetic people out there who don't mean any harm, but they just don't do any good. But I was I'd say my faith in humanity was restored to a degree from the incredible support. One of my friends, she on Facebook you can do a fundraiser for your birthday, so she raised $1,500 for us.
Wow, incredible.
So and then I was literally on the phone one day out in the park in front of my house, and I was on the phone with the supplier trying to get these masks, and one of our neighbors just like walked up to me and handed me a check for $150, and she heard somehow that I was doing this, and so she literally walked out of her house, saw me, and handed me a check while I was on the phone. So there are a lot of awesome people. There's a lot of shitty people too who are selling fake masks and scamming people,
jacking up the prices and all that type of stuff. And so it's just really refreshing to see that hey, we can all come together. We're all people. Let's try to get together and make sure that we can get through this together as people.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of great people. To not get too political, because I just don't have any interest in don't at me, bro. But it's so interesting how this has both really reinforced my belief in small government, in that the government just can't handle shit like this. Like they're just not equipped for it. People like Javad are able to step up. Right, if the government gives out $1, 30 cents shows up in the hands of the people that actually need it. Whereas when Javad collects $1 ends up in the hands of the people that really need it. But at the same time, it also reinforces the need for big government. Like that, had this process been started weeks earlier, of building PPE here and getting it, we knew this wave was coming. It wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. And had it been handled in the proper way, who knows how much, listen, there's nothing that was going to be done to stop this wave from crashing on our country. was not a matter of, again, not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And so had things been handled right from the beginning, who knows where we'd be today. So it's so interesting. Like, it's just such a push and a pull. But again, I wanted to make sure to put on blast the fact that, like, there's so much kind of masturbatory activities that we do in the car community, right? It's I just put new wheels on my car.
Everyone's all doing it for the gram. Like, how do I get out there and exactly, how can I get the attention? How can I show off what I'm doing? And it's like, this is what matters at the end of the day.
Yeah. No, and so many of our customers supported this campaign. Dozens and dozens of our customers donated. And I know we got into the BMW community, and a lot of BMW people donated. So and one of our suppliers, FCP Euro, donated $5,000 to.
That's awesome.
Very
cool. And what's so great about, so I have a detailing business here in Columbus, and we are very charitable. Like, we all the time are involved in, again, sponsoring families or for whatever. We're very involved in the community. And I mean, especially during these times, but kind of always, it's amazing how much charity can also be good business, right? Like there's, I have electric cars for our business because they are eco and green and cachet and blah, 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 but they're also just good for business, right? So the dichotomy, it's a false dichotomy between doing the right thing and being business conscious, because I'm sure that people that either hadn't heard of 034 before or had, a loose relationship with 034 that now have seen what you guys are doing, I guarantee you that the sense of loyalty to your brand has gone through the roof. But also, like, the fact that you guys are from literally every product that I've ever seen of you guys have such a good product that you can back up the reputation. Like I said, I feel bad that I almost forgot to bring it up. It was like basically
I wasn't gonna let you do that, B. I definitely had to jump in on it because I knew it was a topic that was on our list. We can't thank you enough. I mean, Javad, it's awesome. It's a great cause, and obviously
appreciate the kind words.
And no better way to pay homage to a fallen friend than to do something great in his name. So
yeah, he would have loved this. He would have loved being a part of it. He would have loved helping promote it. He would have loved strategizing and just watching it play out. He would have truly loved this. So I know, that is making him happy, seeing that happen as well.
That's awesome. So let's start to wrap here a little bit. I know it's not late for you because you're on the West Coast, but it's getting late for us. And so please give us like the Instagram. I know you're just Javad Shadzi everywhere, but also you're at 034 Motorsports. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah. So 034 Motorsport on Instagram, 034 Motorsport on Facebook, Twitter. And then, Javad Shadzi on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, if you want to connect. I don't really post much on Twitter, but sometimes I think I should just post about politics on Twitter because that seems like the best place to do that. Facebook.
It's so fun.
Shout it into the Twitter sphere and just let it go.
Twitter is like, it's a free for all, right?
It's so funny, it's Javad, that just since posting this, I saw both of us commented on it, but Javad had posted the link to this live feed. Yeah. And somebody posted, I want to give them, I want to like shout them out because I think it's hilarious. Steve Buchholz, I think.
Yeah, Steve Buchholz.
The comment was, lost me at the Joe Biden comment. I love it. No matter how innocuous you possibly can be, no matter what, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So if you guys are listening, and I hope you are, and you're Volkswagen or Audi owners, make sure to go to 034motorsport.com. They got all kinds of good stuff. Hopefully, do you guys have a car running? Hopefully in IMSA this year. Do you guys have it?
No, this year's just a cluster F, so we're not. We don't have any plans to race anything this year, so we're just kind of keeping an eye out. So actually, SEMA just announced today that they're talking about booth spaces and stuff. So I think they might be thinking about having a show. I don't know how that's going to work.
Yeah, I saw that SEMA is basically like fully refundable. Is like their big thing. Like, don't worry, just put the money down, it'll be fine.
Yeah, there's just no way at the end of October to get 200,000 people rubbing.
So where I think the problem is going to be is even so. First of all, I think we know. I think the convention center actually is the mayor's like area. Because I know the Strip is not like that. We saw that video with the interview with Anderson Cooper, how she wants to get Las Vegas back to work.
I don't own the casino. I don't know how they're going to do it, but we got to get people back in it.
I talked to them. They're all good people. Somehow everyone's a good person. But I think what, they might go through with it. The problem is like, I think we all know that that a lot, the lion's share of the business that happens at SEMA is overseas money, like the people that fly in. Yeah. Not even it's
half of it's Chinese people. Yeah,
and it's not even just Chinese. Like the amount of Italian and just like European. They are not. They're not even going to be allowed to fly here at that point. So how that happens.
I think to have an event like that this year is very unlikely. I also think very few people will want to go to it. Like maybe at least half of the people won't have anything to do. I'm not even sure I'm comfortable. I don't know what I would do. So, or expecting my staff to go as well. So, I mean, it would just suck to go to a show for 4 days and come back with coronavirus and infect your family and the whole company.
Well, listen, if you go, I think we are all used to by now. If you go to SEMA for 4 days, you're coming back with some sort of a disease anyways.
STD
so
or something. Maybe
coronavirus isn't the worst thing I ever came back from Vegas after SEMA for. But yeah, so you guys make sure that you are checking out 034motorsport.com. I promise I'll get it right eventually. If their name is on a product, I personally guarantee that it's awesome. 034 does amazing stuff for your Volkswagens, your Audis. And if you have any interest in putting a B5 S4 motor in the back of your Mark IV GTI, I know the guy to do it. But we are at Garage.Chronicles on the gram. Please make sure to give us a like. Get over to Garage.Chronicles.com. We're live right now on our YouTube page. If you're listening to us on the podcast, we're not live anymore, but we will be. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you'll get a notification when we go live. On Thursday, we are having Mike Satterfield from the Gentleman Racer on the show, and it's going to be really interesting. He's got a lot of insight to kind of the car scene, but more importantly, like the business side of everything he's doing. He's got a product, he's got a clothing line, he's got, he does photography. It's a really interesting guy. So Thursday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time, we'll be live on our YouTube channel because we've got this finally mother effing figured out.
Woohoo.
We won't have Javad with us, though. So, Javad, thank you so much for joining us again. We had a great time. It's always a good time talking to you. Hopefully, we get a chance to cash back up with you.
Absolutely.
You can cash me inside. You can cash me outside. As long as I cash some of that delicious food you're cooking.
Yeah,
there you go. Absolutely. I'm looking forward to when we can come up to 034 and get some barbecue for sure and catch up.
So I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Like, now that I'm thinking like, oh, eventually we'll get to do stuff, and like we're gonna do this, and when I can do stuff, I'm gonna do that. But like, dude, Kevin, like let's go to the open house if we can.
Oh, 100%. I'm in. I mean, absolutely.
Absolutely.
We'll do it live at the 034 Motorsport.
Hey, you know what? I'll send you a T-shirt. We have a T-shirt that tells you how to say it. I'll send you one.
I love it. And then I will not wink, send you out a beer of one of the Platform Beer Co's Tart Fizz. All right, guys. On behalf of myself and Kevin and Shavad, thank you guys so much for joining us. And don't forget, as I always tell you, just wash your fucking hands.
It's easy. Thanks, Shavad. Thanks, guys. See you later.
Okay.
Thanks for watching the recording of this podcast episode. You can find this and every other episode on every major podcast streaming service. Click the button in the top right to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That'll make sure you get a notification whenever we're live with our next guest and any other fun content we upload. Also, make sure to add us on Instagram at Garage.Chronicles.